The stars were quiet that day, and space looked peaceful, like an endless sea of silence and light, where nothing could go wrong, and no one would expect danger to come near a ship that carried no weapons, no soldiers, and no threat. Only doctors, nurses, wounded soldiers, and children. The name of the ship was Mercy Dawn, a proud white vessel painted with red medical crosses so bright that even scanners could recognize it instantly as a hospital ship, protected under ancient space law, never to be touched in any war. Captain Ilara Voss stood at the main window, watching distant suns rise and fall like waves in the void, her hands folded behind her back, her heart full of hope, because today they were delivering the last batch of war survivors to the Earth Aid Station near the Orion Gate. And once that was done, the ship could finally return home for refueling and rest, something the crew had been waiting for after 7 long months of rescue missions through dangerous zones. Inside the ship, soft music played in the recovery halls, where human doctors moved between beds, checking patients, smiling at children, and giving comfort to the wounded soldiers who had once thought they would never see home again. In one quiet corner, a young girl named Amira was drawing a picture on her tablet. A picture of her family standing in front of their house, with stars above them, and a small ship flying in the sky. Her fingers moved slowly, carefully, as if she wanted to draw a memory that would never fade. But then, something happened. On the bridge, alarms began to blink. At first, they were soft, just a warning of proximity. But then they turned red, and the whole crew went silent as the screen lit up with a shape they never expected to see so close. An alien warship, massive and dark, had jumped into their path, its engines glowing with heat, its weapons already charged. Captain Ilara raised her voice, calm but firm, and said, "Open peaceful broadcast. Identify us as non-combat. Send hospital codes. Do it now." The communications officer nodded quickly and transmitted the message. "This is the human hospital ship Mercy Dawn. We are unarmed, carrying wounded, requesting safe passage. Do not engage." For a few long seconds, there was no reply, just silence. And in that silence, fear spread across the bridge like cold fire, because everyone knew that if the alien ship was peaceful, they would have answered by now. Then, without warning, the alien ship fired. The first blast hit the lower decks, shaking the entire Mercy Dawn so hard that lights exploded from the ceilings and patients screamed in terror. Fire spread through the halls, and smoke filled the corridors where seconds ago there had been music and laughter. Amira dropped her tablet and ran toward the door, crying for her mother, her tiny footsteps echoing through the panic-filled hallway. Ilara screamed into the comms, "We are a hospital ship. We are unarmed. Stop. Please, stop." But the alien warship didn't stop. It fired again, and this time, it hit the heart of the ship, breaking through the reactor room, tearing through steel and fireproof walls like paper. One by one, rooms collapsed, systems failed, and oxygen levels dropped as the once peaceful ship began to fall apart in pieces. From Earth's moon base, engineers watched in horror as the live feed went dark. But just before it did, one last video played, broadcast from an auto-survival cam deep in the ship's medical wing. It showed a hallway full of smoke, flickering lights, and a voice, weak, scared, and small, echoed through the flames. It was Amira. She looked into the camera with tears in her eyes and said one word, "Why?" Then everything went black. Back on Earth, the people did not sleep that night. The broadcast had spread everywhere within hours. Every screen, every device, every station, military or civilian, replayed the footage of the hospital ship. The screaming patients, the fire, the girl's voice asking a question that had no answer. In a hidden command room beneath the mountains of Antarctica, the Earth Council met in emergency. The room was silent as Admiral Marcus Graves stood up and placed his hand on the table, his eyes heavy, his voice low but strong. They attacked a ship filled with doctors and children. They thought we would stay quiet. They thought we would forget. He looked at the screen showing Mercy Dawn's last position in red blinking light. They are wrong. That night, the Earth Council passed a new order. Not of peace, not of justice, but of vengeance. And somewhere in the shadows of the solar system, dark ships began to move, silent, fast, and full of fire, because the time of forgiveness had ended and Earth had remembered what was taken. 3 days had passed since the Mercy Dawn was destroyed, and across the human colonies, from the icy rings of Saturn to the deep mining cities on Mars, people were still talking about the little girl's voice that echoed across the stars, her one-word question, "Why?" now played again and again on news networks, military channels, and even on the quiet radio stations of old Earth, where farmers and families now sat in silence, listening, remembering, and waiting. The pain had turned to anger, and the anger had turned to fire. Deep beneath Antarctica, in Earth's oldest and most secret base known as Vault Aegis, the Earth Council had gathered in full force, and they were not there to negotiate peace, not this time. They were there to wake something that hadn't moved in over 30 years, a forgotten project buried under silence and shadows, codenamed Operation Iron Flame. Admiral Marcus Graves, now appointed Supreme Commander of Earth Defense, stood before the highest-ranking leaders of the Terran Union, and behind him, a massive screen showed the replay of the Mercy Dawn's final moments. He let it play without sound, because by now, everyone in that room already knew the sounds by heart. The explosions, the screams, the girl's question. Admiral Graves took a deep breath and said, "We warned them. We followed every rule. We held back our strongest weapons. We trusted the Galactic Accord. And they broke it. They'd bombed a hospital ship. There are no more excuses. We respond with force." No one in the room objected. One by one, they nodded. Then, with a simple command, Operation Iron Flame was activated. Far away in the asteroid belt, hidden in a hollowed-out moon called Black Echo, the most advanced warship humanity had ever created began to power up for the first time in decades. Its name was Hellspite, and it was not just a ship. It was a warning carved in steel, powered by weapons that the galaxy had only heard of in whispers, and designed by engineers who believed Earth should never be caught unprepared again. The ship had no civilian crew. Every person on board was a soldier, trained in both combat and silence, because Hellspite was made for one purpose only: to strike fear into those who had forgotten Earth's power. Captain Reeve Callan stood at the center of the warship's command bridge, watching the reactor come to life, its deep hum like the growl of a sleeping beast waking up. He was an older man, scar across his left eye, hand steady as stone, and a reputation that could make even generals fall silent when he entered the room. He turned to his weapons officer and gave a single nod. "Begin cloak mode. Set course for the Varnak sector." The Varnak sector was where the alien fleet that had destroyed the Mercy Dawn had gone. Celebrating, laughing, thinking they had made Earth weak again. They had no idea what was coming. As Hellspite moved through space like a ghost in the dark, the other ships of Operation Iron Flame began to leave their hidden bases too. Stealth bombers from the Mars shipyards, railgun carriers from Europa's deep vaults, and Hunter-class frigates that had never been seen in battle before, all moving in silence, all headed for one target. And not just the military moved. Across Earth, engineers opened vaults to long-lost weapons. Scientists activated AI defense codes that hadn't been touched in years. Orbital factories doubled their output. Every human colony was ordered to raise alert status to red. Children were moved to shelters. Civilians trained in emergency drills. Because this wasn't just a mission, it was a message to the galaxy. Earth remembers, and Earth will never forgive. Back on Hellspite, Captain Reeve received a private transmission from Admiral Graves. "You are cleared for Phase 1. But remember, no survivors on their command ship. Make them understand. Mercy is not an option." Reeve nodded. "Understood, sir. We don't fly white ships anymore." Meanwhile, in the Varnak sector, the alien fleet was relaxed. The war was over, or so they believed. Human forces had been quiet for years, and no retaliation had come even after they destroyed the hospital ship. In their command hall, their generals laughed, shared drinks, and discussed plans to expand deeper into Earth's sectors, believing humans were too soft to fight back. They were wrong, because just beyond their sensors, something was waiting. Something human. Something angry. And in a few hours, when their ships began to explode from the inside without warning, when their stations went dark, and when their commanders heard a voice, calm, cold, and human, say, "This is for Mercy Dawn," before vanishing into the void, they would finally understand. Earth hadn't gone silent. It was sharpening its blades. And now, the galaxy would burn in the fire of Operation Iron Flame. The alien fleet in the Varnak sector had grown lazy. After destroying the human hospital ship, they believed Earth would do nothing, just like last time, and they celebrated their victory as if they had broken the last human spirit. Their ships floated without tight formations, and their security codes were relaxed. The commanders believed they had erased fear from human hearts forever. But they were wrong, deadly wrong, because just beyond their scanners, hidden in the cold dark between two dead moons, the human warship Hellspite waited in complete silence. Its massive body blended with the stars, invisible to alien radar, its weapons systems humming quietly, and its crew moving with the calm of people who knew exactly what they were about to do. Captain Reeve Callan stood at the center of the command deck, eyes focused on the enemy fleet through a digital screen that showed every alien ship in perfect detail. The battleships, the cruisers, the command vessel glowing brighter than the rest. He didn't smile. There was no joy in revenge, but there was justice, and it was long overdue. "Fireteam Alpha, report," he said calmly. A voice replied, "We're in position, Captain. They haven't detected us. Charges are set inside the command ship's fuel lines, just as planned." Reeve gave a slow nod. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1. And then, nothing exploded. Instead, for 5 long seconds, there was silence. Then, without warning, the center of the alien fleet lit up like a small sun. A massive fireball swallowed their command ship as the fuel lines ignited from within, tearing the entire vessel apart in a bright, brutal shockwave that knocked nearby cruisers off their course and blinded several sensor stations instantly. Panic spread fast. Alien captains screamed into their radios, demanding answers, but there was only static or screaming. Officers ran through their corridors, trying to understand what had happened, but the human infiltrators had already vanished into space, using stealth suits designed to bend light and sound. Inside 5 minutes, 3 more alien ships erupted in flames from silent planted charges. Then, before they could regroup, Hellspite revealed itself. The cloak dropped, and the stars behind the ship twisted and broke as its enormous black frame appeared like a giant waking from a long sleep. Its railguns rotated forward, its missile bays opened wide. And the alien fleet realized too late. They were not under attack. They were already dead. "Open fire," Captain Reeve ordered, and the sky burned. Missiles streaked across the dark like falling stars. Railguns launched explosive rods at speeds that tore through enemy hulls as if they were made of paper. Laser beams painted red lines through the black, and one by one, alien ships exploded, their pieces scattering into the void. The alien fleet tried to fight back. Their weapons powered up, and their ships turned to engage, but the humans had trained for this for years. Their targeting systems were faster, their formations tighter, and their technology had improved in silence, while the galaxy mocked Earth as weak. On the surface of a nearby asteroid base, an alien commander named Vurak watched in horror as each of his capital ships fell. His face twisted in disbelief as he shouted, "This is impossible." They were weak. They were finished. His second-in-command replied, voice trembling, "Sir, it's the humans. It's the ship they call Hellspite. It just came out of nowhere." Vurak's hands clenched into fists. "Then destroy it. Bring everything we have." But it was too late. The Hellspite had already disabled half their fleet, and before they could react, another human fleet dropped out of hyperspace, 6 ships strong, coming from the Mars Defense Command. They joined the attack, striking the flanks of the alien ships that were trying to escape, trapping them between human warships on both sides. This wasn't a battle anymore. It was a message. One last alien destroyer turned to flee, its engines burning at full power, but before it could vanish into hyperspace, a final voice came through its speaker system. A human voice, cold, calm, and heavy with pain. "This is for the children aboard the Mercy Dawn. Earth forgives nothing. Earth forgets nothing. This is Iron Flame." And then the ship exploded, hit by a pinpoint railgun shot that tore through its core. Within 1 hour, the alien fleet in Varnak sector had been completely wiped out. Not a single human ship was lost. As the smoke faded and the debris floated quietly, Captain Reeve stood in silence. He knew this was just the beginning. Earth's message had been delivered, but the real war, the war for justice, for honor, and for peace, was far from over. He turned to his crew and gave one final order that day. Prepare for the next target. And deep in the shadows of the galaxy, other alien fleets received the news and felt something they hadn't felt in 100 years when thinking of humans. Fear. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, where stone pillars reached high into the golden ceilings and the air always smelled of power and pride, silence had fallen like a heavy weight. Representatives of hundreds of alien species sat frozen in their chairs, staring at the massive holographic screen in front of them, where the destruction of the Varnak sector fleet played over and over again. The same human warship, Hellspite, moving through alien cruisers like a shadow of death, destroying everything in its path with terrifying precision and cold silence. No one spoke for several minutes. Then a voice, sharp and trembling, broke the quiet. This is impossible," said Grand Minister Raxer of the Draith Dominion, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. "The humans had no fleets. Their planet was in ruins. We counted them as finished after the siege of Earth." The screen changed again, showing the last transmission from the alien destroyer moments before it exploded. That voice, cold, slow, and filled with rage. "This is for the children aboard the Mercy Dawn. Earth forgives nothing. Earth forgets nothing. This is Iron Flame. Even the oldest among the council felt chills when they heard that sentence. Another alien, from the crystal-bodied Zerine race, rose to speak. You said Earth was silent. You said they were rebuilding, powerless. You lie to us. No, Raxer growled back. We believed what we saw. Their cities were gone. Their satellites were quiet. Their colonies disconnected. There were no signals for years, only silence. But something changed, whispered a pale-skinned Sorn delegate, his long fingers tapping the edge of his table nervously. Something woke them up. We bombed a hospital ship, and now they rise again. The room darkened as new images appeared, spy scans of 6 more human ships entering the Helos Belt, another forgotten edge of space. These ships were not medical. They were fully armed warships. Their designs were new. Their engines ran hotter than any known propulsion system. Their weapons were different, refined, deadly. One even had shielding that deflected council-made lasers. This is not human defense, the Sorn delegate said slowly. This is human preparation for war. A panic began to ripple through the chamber. Some called for military action. Others shouted for peace talks. A few screamed that Earth should be erased once and for all before the war truly began. But the smartest among them said nothing. They simply remembered something that had been forgotten for too long. The Terran War Doctrine. An old, simple rule humans followed when pushed too far. They do not stop. Once revenge begins, it does not end with battle. It ends when the enemy can no longer raise its head. And that thought made even the strongest species in the galaxy feel fear. In a far corner of the chamber, an old alien named Katak of the Tervan race stood. He had lived through the first human wars, back when Earth had first joined the stars. He had seen their strength, their speed of adaptation, and most of all, their terrifying ability to never give up, even when they were broken. The humans, Katak said slowly, do not build fleets for power. They do not strike for fame. When they come like this, it is not war they bring. It is punishment. The council fell quiet again. Then the central beacon lit up. It was an emergency communication from the outer edge of council space. A deep voice spoke in static-filled tones. This is the Krell command station in the Denari Nebula. We've just detected another Terran ship. No ID signature. It's cloaked. We believe it's another Hellspite class. Requesting guidance. Should we fire? The council froze. If they said yes and attacked the ship, they might start a full war. If they said no, they would look weak, and Earth might already consider them guilty. In the end, no answer came fast enough. The Krell command station was destroyed within minutes. Its last message was a burst of data showing the silhouette of a massive warship rising from the clouds of a dead gas moon, followed by blinding flashes of light as it fired once, twice, then silence. On Earth, deep beneath the ruins of New Washington, Captain Reeve watched the intercepted transmissions. He said nothing as his crew monitored the alien panic. He only stared at the final image. The council hall frozen in fear and whispered quietly to himself. They forgot what we were. Now they remember. And across the galaxy, other broken human colonies, hidden in deep space, heard the voice of Hellspite echoing in coded signals sent from ship to ship, planet to planet, bunker to bunker. We rise again. Earth is not finished. Earth is flame. And they answered, not with words, but with the sound of warships powering up after years of silence. The silence that once surrounded Earth's broken name had vanished like smoke in a storm, and across the galaxy, among stars that had long forgotten the sound of Terran voices, new signals began to hum through the dark once more, not as cries for help or words of peace, but as war songs written in flame, memory, and unshakable rage. In the burned-out system of Ryden IV, where human miners once lived in harmony before they were erased by council-backed pirates, the ground began to shake as hidden bunkers opened after decades of sleep, and inside those ancient shelters, soldiers who were once thought dead began rising from cryopods, their eyes adjusting to light, their hands gripping old weapons that still held power in them, and their minds locked on one single order that had remained alive in the system's final broadcast. Wait. Survive. And when the signal comes, burn everything. And now, the signal had come. In the deep Niberi Rift, where council forces had long believed no one remained, another human warship, sleek, silent, deadly, appeared from within a collapsing black star and destroyed a Xarn battleship without ever being seen on radar, its presence marked only by wreckage, a broadcast of coordinates, and the same message repeated in Old Terran code. For the Mercy Dawn. For Earth. We are not gone. On every forgotten world, From frost-covered moons to deep jungle planets where only ruins remained, human colonies began to respond. Long-dormant AIs activated. Civilian vessels transformed into warships with hidden weapons. Engineers rebuilt old Earth fighters from spare metal. And the people, tired, angry, quiet for far too long, chose once again to fight. They had not forgotten the white hospital ship that was bombed. They had not forgiven the silence that followed. And now, they were done waiting. Back at the center of the resistance, inside Hellspite, Captain Reeve watched the star map flicker as green lights, the signal of allied humans, began to light up system after system. His crew stood behind him. None of them needed orders. None of them asked for backup. Every one of them knew the truth. Earth was never just a planet. It was a promise. And now that promise burned brighter than ever. "We have confirmation," said his communications officer, a scared young woman named Yara who lost her entire family during the bombing of Mercy Dawn. "Colonies from the Edge Rings, the Ash Belt, and even Sector 9 are moving. They've sent ships. Thousands." Reeve turned slowly, his voice calm. And lo, they finally understand. In the far corners of Council space, chaos had already begun. Fleets sent to hunt human survivors were vanishing. Convoys were being hid in deep space. Council worlds were receiving warning messages, each one ending with the same code. Operation Echofire is active. Operation Echofire, the secret Terran retaliation plan, long thought destroyed with the fall of Earth, was now fully alive. Even the name was terrifying to the Council. They knew what it meant. No negotiations. No mercy. Only retribution. Inside the Galactic Council chambers, emergency meetings turned into loud screaming matches. Some species demanded peace talks with the humans. Others cried out for mass extermination of Earth's remnants. A few, the wiser ones, started pulling their fleets back and abandoning old alliances, not out of fear, but out of respect. Because deep down, they remembered what humans had done in the past when they were cornered. And now humanity was no longer cornered. It was rising. One council member from the Virex species, covered in thick armor and known for his pride, stood in front of the chamber and raised a trembling hand. "Does anyone," he said slowly, "remember what Earth did during the Krallen War? They were outnumbered, surrounded, betrayed, and they still won. Why? Not because of power, but because they refused to quit. And now we bombed their hospital ship. We made them remember." In response, another delegate simply whispered, "And now they make us remember them." At that exact moment, above a distant red star, 100 human ships appeared. No warning, no speeches. They moved in formation, like they had been practicing this moment for years, each ship carrying the flags of colonies that were once forgotten. Earth, Mars, Luna, Titan, Europa, and more, burning like fire across space. They didn't ask for surrender. They didn't broadcast threats. They only moved forward, past satellites and scouts and enemy lines, heading toward the first major council world in their path. Operation Echofire had begun, and Earth's flame was not just reigniting, it was consuming everything in its path. From the shadows, survivors from the Mercy Dawn watched from their own hidden ship. They had grown old, but their hearts still burned. One of them, a former nurse with gray hair and a cybernetic arm, whispered with tears in her eyes. They thought the hospital ship was weak, but they forgot. We were humans, and we never forget.